What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football Safe Space, presented to you by the Fantasy Shot Callers and what used to be the Melon app. I'm 7 o'clock, accompanied with my brother from another mother, Brother Fox. How are you holding up?
Hey, I'm well, brother. I know our third compadre's not here today, but as he normally says, he's blessed and highly favored, and I feel the same way.
There it is. There it is. How can the good folks take care of us?
Hey, as always, y'all can give us that HBO special. If you don't know, the HBO special is the Help a Brother Out special. So help some brothers out. Hit that like button, subscribe. It truly goes a long way.
It really, really does. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully, get some people in the chat tonight. We're doing ADPs from Fantasy Pros. I'm gonna try to pull it up. Three that we love, three that we hate. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know whose ADP you guys love and hate. Brother Fox, let them know who you love, whose ADP you love right now, based off of Fantasy Pros.
So, the reason why we actually had this topic today was generally because this year, among a lot of other years, there's a real big differential between what the perception is with the fantasy experts versus where people are actually going in their drafts. So this is why we actually have there's quite a few people who, we both like and dislike in regards to these ADP rankings. But I'll start with someone I love, Ramondre Stevenson. Right now, he is going at the ADP 25, which means you're getting him at the turn on the third round. So, if you're somebody who's able to get a Christian McCaffrey or Justin Jefferson at the beginning of your draft and being able to get that turn and come back on the third round and be able to get somebody like Ramondre Stevenson, get an RB1 in a system that's running back heavy. We saw how he was after Harris went down, just how effective he was going down the season. I feel getting him at ADP 25 is fan-effing-tastic.
I agree. That feels like a value, and I don't understand why someone like him who finished RB7, RB8 last year, and now there's no Harris, there's not even a James Robinson, even if he was a threat, he's not even there anymore. So you've got a fourth round draft pick, second year player from South Dakota State. I want to say Pierre Strong Jr. might be that backup, that handcuff, but I know Bill Belichick usually doesn't trust one running back, but I feel like he doesn't have any choice this year. Maybe he's allocating more of the salary cap to different positions, and he's not paying, a bunch of running backs to all do the same job. So getting him at 25 seems like a really, really good value. And like you said, if you're getting an Eckler or a CMC at 1 or 2 and Ramondre's there as your RB2 or even as your flex in the third round, which I've seen, that's kind of scary.
For real.
The player who I loved is actually going 27, and it's last year's top 3 running back and a guy who's never finished outside the top 10, Josh Jacobs, number 27. Still got the salary franchise tag, should be poised for another big year. He's fighting for a contract. He's fighting for his career. Nothing really has changed. I know Derek Carr is gone, but he's a middle tier quarterback, and you got Jimmy Garoppolo. So I mean, it might be a small downgrade, but not big enough to make a difference. They still have one of the easier schedules, probably second easiest in the AFC West.
I couldn't agree more with you there. Josh Jacobs, he finished at was he RB1 last year?
Did he finish? I think RB2 behind Eckler.
So he had a fantastic season. He's still coming back, one additional year in that system. And as we said, all of last year, follow the money. When a player's in a contract year, they ball out. And I heard Josh Jacobs wasn't too happy about getting that franchise tag. So, he's auditioning right now for the 31 other teams.
Yeah.
Because there's a good chance that the Raiders aren't going to double franchise tag him again. And running backs aren't necessarily worth it in the long run in regards to, NFL contracts. So he's auditioning for his next contract. And I can see him absolutely balling out again.
No, you hit it right on the mark. What's crazy is that this isn't the ECR, this is the ADP. So this is what the followers. This is what the people are doing. This is where they're trending. 27 for Josh Jacobs. I want to be in more public leagues this year.
For real. For real.
Who's the second player that you love, Brother Fox?
Okay. My second player I love at ADP 38, Najee Harris.
Got you.
So for Najee, as we talked about in one of our mock drafts, the Steelers have revamped their offensive line. They've gotten 2 new tackles this offseason. Najee Harris is coming off of a down year, absolutely yes, but it was partially because of A, quarterback production, and B, that offensive line was just poor. There's no other excuse to say it. He's looking for a rebound year, and to get him at an ADP 38, you're telling me that Najee potentially could be available at the beginning of the 4th round. You could get in someone who could possibly be one of the top 5 RBs coming into next season. Being as the production that he's capable of, and again, he's coming into year 3 of the system. He needs to prove himself if he actually wants to get that 5th-year extension. Because with these new contracts, he hasn't been paid anything. Albeit he's a first-round draft pick, he's gotten peanuts. Unless they get that 5th-year option, they don't really make much in that first contract. So if he wants to actually make some good money, this is his time. Show up or shut up.
No, great points made. Not to mention, they just improved the offensive line, which was probably the weakest point of the team outside of quarterback.
Absolutely.
They trade up and get another Georgia Bulldog, almost like taking some notes from Howie over in Philly. Yep. So they went and got a dog, both really in the second and the first and the second round, but they went and got an offensive tackle that's going to greatly help the O-line, and which should help Najee. Najee also should be healthy. A lot of people don't realize he wasn't healthy until about week 8, and I think week 8 to week 17. He was a top 12 running back. So to have him potentially based off ADP, he's averaging going at 38. So that means he's going in the 4th round in 12 person leagues, which is crazy.
Absolutely. And I think another caveat to that is that the tight end they drafted in, I want to say the 3rd or 4th round, was one of the best blocking tight ends in the country. Now, right. Think about in the past when Gronkowski was on the Patriots. Having Gronk out there was like having an extra tackle out there to block. And for years, the Patriots had this. Yeah, the Patriots had this running game that was damn near unstoppable when it comes to playoff time. And with Najee, with these new additions, they have the potential and the receivers on the outside to be a dynamic force on offensive end.
It's funny that more teams don't go for blocking tight ends anymore. That's just how much of a passing league that it is.
It's not the sexy pick. It doesn't sell tickets. That's what it is.
No, true. Second player who I love is Cam Akers at 75.
Ooh,
that seems crazy. Like I get it, but that's not after that finish. I feel like he could have been 75 last year. Or year before last, I should say. But to be 75, RB22, and this is his average, worst 82, ADP 75. That's just crazy to me. Yeah. For the finish that he had, there's no Sony Michel. A lot of people will attribute his success to no Cup or no Stafford. But I feel like that only opens up more for the offense and for him, because now you really can't stack the box because Cooper Kupp's on the outside. Exactly. So 75 for Cam Akers seems like a great value in my opinion.
It's a steal. The man was coming off of an injury, and the Rams last year. Once you have an injury at quarterback, it's all hell breaks loose. It seems like when your quarterback's not right, you can't block, you can't catch. You can't defend. It's just it all goes downhill. But with Cam Akers, this is absolutely going to be a rebound year. Now, do I believe he could be an RB1 or RB2? Probably not, at least not initially. But if you're able to get him at an ADP of 75 and able to store him, he could actually come up with a few solid games for you throughout the season for sure.
Completely agree. In most analyst leagues, we've seen him mock late fourth, usually traditionally in the fifth round, anywhere from like late fourth to early second. We've seen him go. So let's say mid fifth as a flex, as someone's third running back or second running back. You know, in your case, if you go double receiver, I'm not mad at that. But to get him 75th, that's like sixth, seventh round. That's like late, well into the sixth, seventh round. It's great value for someone who could potentially be, you know, a top 24 pick, you know, top 24 running back and be a true RB2.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
The last player that you liked, whose ADP you loved.
I love, and I was shocked to see this because in our analyst mock drafts, he's gone far higher than this. But Breece Hall, ADP 31.
31.
Now, I get it. Breece Hall was coming off of a rookie. He was a rookie last year. He had an injury, kept him out for the remainder of the season. But the kid was looking like a top 5 to 10 running back in the National Football League before he
looked like a top 5 to 10 running back.
He looked fantastic. And on that offense where you know he's going to get the carries, it's sure, is it a gamble? You know, he's partially blue tint, you know. He got that that Charger blue on him slightly. But at the same time, the risk versus the reward is great. And if you're able to get him at that ADP, if you're able to get him at 31, you're telling me, you know, mid third round to be able to get a potentially top 5 running back, you got to jump on it.
Again, I completely agree. A lot of people don't realize he was doing what he was doing last year without his 2 best offensive linemen. You know,
Thanks.
Being
bring some game on him.
You know, being Becton and Vera Tucker. These are 2 guys, 2 top 20 offensive tackles or offensive linemen that have been drafted. So now you're telling me that hopefully to start the season he should have both of his linemen healthy if he's healthy. And Aaron Rodgers is a 4 times upgrade from Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. Right. Breece Hall could really, really
teams aren't going to be able to stack the box at all. You know,
if
they get any push, especially.
And we're not even talking about the monster that's on the outside in Garrett Wilson. So
exactly.
It all depends on his health and his offensive line health. You know, Rodgers, you have to respect. Garrett Wilson, you have to respect. But
hell, even Meek Cole could take the top off the defense. You gotta keep a deep safety.
True. As a Chiefs fan, you know that. So we're all big on Breece Hall. So to get him, what'd you say, 31 ADP?
31, yeah.
Ridiculous. I couldn't agree more. My third player that I have down is Geno Smith.
Okay.
Geno Smith last year was QB 5. They have him rated as QB 15, and he just got the kid from Ohio State. He just got the kid from UCLA coming out the backfield. He's ranked number 115. So he's not even going top 10 in regular and based on ADP, which is crazy. He was number 5 last year. Yes, Lamar was hurt. Yes, Kyler was hurt. So even if you add those 2 gentlemen, QB 7, like put some respect on the dude's name. Even if it was a flash in the pan, you at least got to take him in the 8th, 9th round, bare minimum. He just got more weapons, and he was QB 5.
That's so crazy. And I saw this wild stat last year that was talking about teams that were in the playoffs with particular quarterbacks versus teams that were not in the playoffs. And they said that sadly the majority of teams that had drafted the Josh Allen, the Patrick Mahomeses of the world were out of the playoffs. With teams with Geno Smith and teams with Brock Purdy had higher likelihoods of making the playoffs because you know they're more top heavy. They have more talent in the backfield and the receiving court. So you know, getting somebody late like Geno, you know, if you're not able to get the QB1 that you desire and that QB1 that you're wishing for there, and you can't get someone like a Trevor Lawrence in the 6th or 7th round, you know, hey, Geno might be a fantastic pickup for you.
Yeah, you know, I don't see a problem. I was just talking to shout out to Big Dunna, Chef Dunna, the number 1 stunner. from Fantasy Shop Calls, but we were just talking about, what about just waiting on quarterback and taking Aaron Rodgers, Tua, and Geno in like the 10th, 11, and just seeing which one of the two. Take Geno in the 10th and Aaron Rodgers in the 11th, or vice versa, or 9-10. Build your roster, build that depth, build that trade value, survive, buy Armageddon or whatever they call it, So it says his worst is 225. His ADP is 103, but then maybe they averaged it out and put him at 115. But
they wrote him off and he didn't write back.
Hey, there it is. There it is. I love it. Just so we don't waste too much time. Where am I at? Who do you hate? Who's the number one person that popped up on the list?
Number one that I hate, and it's someone kind of opened my eyes to me.
It's the ADP.
The ADP that I disliked was Deebo Samuel.
Oh.
Now, we've talked about Deebo several times for several years. Immensely talented, yes, but he might be magna cum laude at the blue tent. He's constantly hurt. And last year he had that knee injury. People believe that it was even more serious, but he was only out a few weeks and he actually came back. Albert, appreciate you as always, brother.
Always. Like Barack Obama and that Key and Peele split. Hey, tuck it in, Albert. It's in there.
So, but when it comes to Deebo, it's just the main thing that scares me is that at an ADP of 33, you're telling me that Deebo Samuel is either going to be your wide receiver 1 if you go like running back strategy, or wide receiver 2 if you got an early wide receiver in round 1. And being as he's only been healthy and only had top 10 wide receiver production at 1 year of his 4 years in the National Football League, that scares me. That scares me a lot. And the fact that they got CMC now in the backfield, they're not going to be running Deebo as much out of the backfield. They have someone who can catch out the backfield, so they don't even need to really use him as a part of that scheme anymore. So now he's going to be your traditional wideout that might get a few jet sweeps. Is that going to be enough to be your wide receiver 1? If you're depending on it, no. Or it may even start the year out as pretty decent, but he's going to get hurt at some point. And do you really want to depend on him as your wide receiver 1? I couldn't do it.
No, I hear your argument. I mean, that was a hell of a season that he had. And I never thought about that. What you're saying is that Christian McCaffrey, kind of took the value out of Deebo. The way I've always approached San Francisco is you really can't trust any of them. And I guess that's before CMC. But when you had those running backs that would be rotated in, you had your Mosterts, your Wilson, your Mitchells. You have 2 stud receivers in Ayuk and Deebo. Then you had Kittle. It's just always too many mouths to feed. But that does make sense what you're saying. CMC's presence is taking away that wide back. And now he's kind of just a wide receiver that runs the occasional jet sweep. 33 seems a little too rich for my blood. I would be comfortable taking him in the late 4th, early 5th. I feel like that's just good return value just because he has only played a full season, or what you would consider a full fantasy season, 15, 16 games once out of 4 years. So 25% chance that he's going to stay healthy.
Exactly.
And that was the year he was a wide back. So I get you.
My thoughts on that would be, if you're going to take Deebo at that 33 ADP, why not hold off and get someone like Brandon Ayuk in like the 6th round? And you'll get pretty much the same numbers that you're going to get from Deebo Samuel if he's going to be a traditional wideout. But you'll have far higher projection of making the playoffs without wasting a top tier pick on a receiver who's going to get hurt. Got you.
Hit us up, Albert, if you got any questions. If you like any ADPs or hate any, let us know. My first player whose ADP I hate. I like the player a lot, actually. I just don't understand why he is the number 2 rated player, or why
Talk
he's
about
being
it.
drafted number 2 overall. Um, and that's Jamar Chase,
Ooh.
right behind Justin Jefferson.
Mhm.
He is right now the 2.0, like straight up, like not even a 2.5 or a 2.8. He's
House
like
way.
the clear cut 2.0, and I don't get it. He's the number 2 receiver on a lot of rankings I've seen, and he's got 2 seasons in the game. He's got 1 top 5 finish and 1, I want to say maybe 22 due to injury. So we'll call it is what it is. But like, why not Cooper Cup? Why not Tyreek Hill? Why not guys who have proven to be, stay in that top 10? Um, it's just crazy to me. It's crazy. And then not even Eckler or CMC, just straight up number 2. I couldn't just overlook this one. What you got?
I could not agree more. Me and you talked about this off the air, but when it comes to Jamar Chase, my personal feeling is he's never, and I repeat, never going to put back up the numbers he put up his rookie season. And there's a couple of reasons why. A, teams have adapted. They understand he's the number 1 receiver. When you're a rookie, they're still trying to figure out what are your weak points, what is this, what is that. Now he's going to have shell coverage to his side every single play. He's going to face the number one DB every single play, and plus, they're going to have the other receivers. T. Higgins in a contract year, Tyler Boyd also in a contract year, and they have to re-sign the quarterback. They realize that they're auditioning for the other team. So is he going to be able to get those touches? I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see how in any world he finishes uh, wide receiver number 2 or
Right.
ADP player number 2. That's ridiculous.
Right, right. I feel like you're drafting him at 2, you're drafting him at his peak. Like that's what he could become. That's not what he will become, but like he should, he has the capability to finish 2.
Mhm.
I don't like it, especially 2 overall. That's crazy. Because when I said 2, I was talking wide receiver 2, but
Mhm.
2 overall is too rich for my blood.
Absolutely.
What's the second player that you hate?
Second player that I hate, Chris Olave, ADP 20.
Mm.
Similar to what I said about Jamar Chase. How, Sway? And I get it. Chris Olave is coming into his second year. Generally, you see the biggest production jump between rookie and sophomore year at any position in the National Football League. He does have a slight, mild upgrade at quarterback with Derek Carr over, the rotation they had last year with W. Eden, Jameis Winston, and the Red Rocket. It's just, albeit he's immensely talented, they don't have enough weapons on that offense for anyone to key in on anyone but him. It's like, and he doesn't have the route running expertise of like say Devontae Adams to signify that position at ADP 20. You're telling me that you're taking him mid to late second round, so he's going to be, unless you got a top tier wide receiver, he's going to be your wide receiver 1. Like, I owned him in 3 leagues last year, and there were only about 3 quality starts he got all season. Albeit he did score, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 touchdowns, and they were all like deep bombs. But he's very deep ball dependent, and if he doesn't get that ball, then you're going to be walking away with scraps, 2-3 catches for 40, 35, 40 yards, and is that really
Yeah.
what you want from your wide receiver 1? Can you trust that on a daily basis? I can't
No,
do it.
I feel you. I feel you. Um, I feel like there's no way I can justify 20. If you want to say he's a turn guy, like a 25, and you think for whatever reason he can be there with like Waddle and Higgins, who are usually like the turn guys that I've seen,
Mhm.
maybe you could, but 20 is like, ooh, that's a lot. And there is a slight upgrade at QB, but overall, I mean, maybe garbage time. Saints, I don't feel like the Saints are horrible, but they're not a playoff team. Maybe you're looking at garbage time. He can rail in. He should be a top. in my opinion, he's a top 12 receiver. But let me click on this real quick because to be 20,
Look
by
who's
down,
around him. Let's see who's around him. Okay,
oh,
you got Tony Pollard. I take Tony.
and he's wide receiver 13.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just that's what's trending outside of analyst leagues is receivers are flying crazy. Yeah, I'd rather T Higgins. Give me T Higgins. All the running backs that we talked about in like 6 spots below.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can get this down real quick. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Brees Hall, and Najee Harris are all going after Chris Olave. That's crazy. Houseway.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Second player whose ADP I hate is a receiver, Christian Watson at 40.
Oh,
I thought that was a little too rich. I've seen him mock in the 6th, 7th round, and that's where I've just grown comfortable.
yeah.
At 40, he's at the midway point. He's a mid-3rd round pick.
Mm.
And he's the 21st receiver off the board. Damn, they love receivers on Fantasy Pros.
Yeah, man.
So
with Love throwing him the ball too?
Right.
Mm.
Like he's talented. And he could finish as a wide receiver too. But I'm not taking him at 40. There's no way. 36 is so he's going what 3.4, 3.5?
Mm-hmm.
Nah. I don't even think I could take him serious into the 5th round.
Even in the 5th, I couldn't do it.
Right. I can't. You're right.
I'd let somebody else. Like now, if we're talking ADP 70, ADP
right
75, then hey, like I'll be all with. I'm willing to take that risk, but
no. Yeah. So, which player do you? The third player that you hate?
Let's see.
Who's
Third
ADP
and final
hate?
player. Now, I think this player is going to have a good season. Yes. But at the ADP that they have him at, I hate it. ADP 32, Calvin Ridley.
Ooh.
I can't get behind. Now, I think Calvin is coming into a fantastic situation. They have an decent offensive line. You have Lawrence going into his 3rd season, 2nd year under Doug Peterson. We should see a nice, solid jump from them. They have an easy schedule. Their division is loaded with a lot of rookies. He should be able to take advantage of that. He does have other receivers and a decent tight end, to complement him. He shouldn't be getting too crazy of coverages out there. And I do believe he's going to have a quality season. He's going to come back. But at 32, so you're telling me that this man is going to, mid-3rd round, he's going to be your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, mid-3rd round at ADP 32. I feel like he's being overvalued here. People are looking at his numbers from the Falcons when a lot of his numbers a couple of years ago, that was all garbage time. The Falcons were getting blown out. Plus, he had a quarterback who was on his last legs, throwing him the football, trying to just stat pad, and it wasn't conducive of what he was doing during the game. So I just don't see it. I don't see it now. If Ridley was there at say an ADP 55, ADP 60, fantastic.
I feel you. I'm taking him in the 4th round if he's there. I don't mind him having him as my wide receiver 1 if I go triple running back. But 32 is just there's no way. There's too much meat on the bone. Give me the last kind of workhorse running back in the 3rd, if possible, if they're there. Give me a Gibbs, a Harris, a Hall, Ramondre. Even a Mixon. I don't know what's going on with his case, but Kamara didn't get suspended. So I'm kind of on edge thinking that Mixon probably won't get suspended for another year. So, yeah, there's a lot of players I'd rather take. Um, let's see. Shot caller says definitely garbage time, and Carr loves to throw the deep ball.
He's talking about Olave.
And yeah, and he says I feel like a casual made these rankings. I mean, this is maybe I was talking to you, Ben, about it a little bit earlier. Maybe we're just so used to playing against like competitive or like people who know what they're doing, and who usually dominate the casual or work league or public league. But it's interesting to see like this is what's going on outside of like this is what's going on in street ball, you know, because I played in the NBA, baby. No.
Yeah.
The last player who I hated, which is not personal, I promise it's not personal, but you know my philosophy. You do not take a quarterback in the first 3 rounds. And at number 22, the golden child himself, we find QB1, Patrick Mahomes. I can't do it. I can't do it. He hasn't repeated that initial MVP season, but he has a nice baseline. I'm not doubting it. But like at 22, I'm drafting Najee Harris. At 22, I'm drafting Brees Hall. You don't win taking a quarterback this early. You really, really don't. The differential in the QB1 and the QB7 is so small versus in which the QB you're taking now is in the second round versus the QB 6, 7 you can get in the 5th, 6th round versus the running back that you could really potentially get in the second round versus the running back that you could potentially get in the 6th round. It's just it makes the difference, and I don't know why, but every year in public leagues, there's always a person who's going to take a quarterback early, and I just have to advise against it. Rule number 1. The best ability is availability. Rule number 2, do not take a quarterback in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And this is coming from a Chief fan. You know, when it comes to like Patrick is going to put up numbers, he'll have a quality season like he does most years. Yes. But at that same token, like we talked about last year, the quality of receiver, the difference between points that you're going to get from someone like a Patrick Mahomes versus someone like a Jalen Hurts or, you know, even a Trevor Lawrence, the deviation is not going to be that big. And, you know, would you rather take a Trevor Lawrence in the 7th round, 6th round versus a Patrick Mahomes in the 2nd round when you could get a Garrett Wilson, you could get a Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard. There's a multitude of fantastic players available. And albeit, like looking at his projection numbers, he eclipsed damn near all of those stats last year. He had a higher completion rating, had over 5,300 yards, threw 41 touchdowns, and he left a lot out there, like truth be told. And I think he's going to have a similar season. But, yeah, taking him in the 2nd round, I just don't see it. Like there's still too many other quality players that you could pick that are going to give you comparable numbers, maybe not as much touchdowns, but something comparable that can actually win you your fantasy league.
For sure. Well, that wraps up another episode of Fantasy Football Safe Space. Tune in next week. We are going to mock as we do every other week. Brother Fox, I appreciate you coming through. Big E,
Yes, sir.
I know you here in spirit. Albert, you always here in spirit. Shout out to the shot callers. Shout out to what was the Melon app. I need to find out their new name.
Looks like Steam Lab.
Steam Lab, maybe Steam Lab. That sounds about right.
Hey, as always, can y'all please give us that HBO special? If you don't know, the HBO special is the Help a Brother Out special. So help some brothers out. Hit that like button, subscribe. It truly goes a long way.
Appreciate you guys. Mock Draft Monday next week. Peace.
Yes, sir. Go Chiefs.